Don't you want to come here to Charleston now?
Yes.
Visit Charleston.
No, get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck alone. Leave us the fuck alone.
We have so
It's
many
full.
ports.
Oh, but David, where will the bachelorette parties go then at that point?
You're all gonna be mad at me.
God damn it, Chad.
I'm also very upset that David's drinking a crap beer and I'm over here drinking a Miller High Life.
I offered you the
No,
beer.
it's not you. It's not you. First of all, I love crap beer. That's my thing, right? I was at the gas station. I was like, oh man, I need to bring something else to drink because I'm not stealing from other people, even my best friend. And I was like, oh, let me see what they have. Nothing, literally no crap beer. I was like, fuck. So I got High Life because I was like, well, at least I'm not going crap beer. I'm gonna go really shitty with it.
Champagne.
The champagne of beer, exactly.
Beer.
There's
Also-
a bar, speaking of food and bev, there's a bar I always go to, AC's, and they have a champagne list, and it's just Miller High Life listed 6 different times. On their actual printout ones, they have it listed in different font and stuff.
Yeah.
But it just says Miller High Life in like really fancy cursive. Of
course.
It's like $2.
That's fucked up. $2.
So if you want to lean back, you can just pull this to you.
Oh, okay.
So it's like that's why the
Yeah,
arms
it's on
are
an
raised.
The best
Sorry,
thing to do
I've
is
never
just
done-
touch it all the whole time.
Yeah, do what he does and never stop playing with it. Pull the
Well, I'm
wires
trying
off,
to-
rearrange
yeah,
them.
Yeah, make sure you
Unplug it. Unplug other people's mics.
I didn't unplug yours last week. It was just happened to be unplugged. For this show.
You've done it though.
Yes, it is true.
Sorry about this. This is my first time doing this kind of thing. So
No, it's
all
cool,
right.
dude.
It
It's fun.
sucks. The same exact time you say it's fun.
But no, hey guys, welcome to the Mooks podcast.
Oh, is this the intro?
Yeah, this is the intro
Take
for
two.
those of you taking them. We actually have a new person in tonight. It's a longtime friend of mine.
Struggled to call you a person, a new person.
No, a new guest, a new face. It's one of my lifetime long friends. He's been in every industry known to man. He's traveled the world. He has,
Really?
yes,
Yeah.
conquered many demons, slain many,
metaphorical,
slain
or-
many dragons. This is my buddy John. What's going on, buddy?
Hey, it's good to be here, guys. That was quite an intro. So only like a fourth of those things was wrong though. So that's kind of fucked up. And I'll give you a hint. It was the one thing was the dragon. I don't know. Everything else was about right.
Yeah, that's absolutely.
Oh man, when you say it like that, I feel so accomplished. But then I look at my life, I'm like, I haven't done shit. So
So you went to middle school together, high school together. We went to college together. He claims that I followed him to college.
I just
many
want to
times.
state the
Probably
facts.
I believe it.
I want to state the facts. I got into the college that we went to together first.
Yep.
And he didn't even want to go there. And then next thing I know, he's like, oh, yeah, I'm going to Coastal.
I remember him saying, "I'm only going to Coastal to follow someone."
Right.
Yeah.
Saying that.
But then also he had the audacity to be like, hey, I was like, hey, man, since, we're best friends and we've known each other for years, do you want to live together freshman year? No, I don't want to do that. Okay, man. So he got stuck with the crap roommate and I lived in my own apartment, like on campus for free.
Disgusting roommate.
Essentially. Yeah. Wow. And then guess what? We hung out together the whole time. So
Yep.
nothing changed other than where we slept.
We did live together for a year, which was fun.
That was a good year.
We had the laziest RA on the face of the earth who was never there,
But also our roommate.
and also our roommate. But then also we had like the most fun person probably we could have had in that building. It was Jordan. Shout out to Jordan Lulliver, one of the most fun gay men that we've ever got the privilege to know.
Oh yeah, man. That was a good time. I miss college, but we're old now.
Yeah, I mean, kinda. Not yet. We're getting there.
John, you want this?
I'm pretty old. I feel old at least. I mean, I have a house and a fiance and 2 dogs, and I just don't do anything but work and then come out every once in a while to do something like this. So I'm kind of excited.
Oh man, when you get your second dog, that's when you're old.
Oh, dude.
I need more to feel complete.
You'll have a family. But no, the reason that I asked John to come on today is because there's been something that's been going on in Charleston for quite a while, and it's kind of sort of started to reach a breaking point in Charleston. The fact that it's pretty much everything that people are talking about in terms of like the newspapers, the local news radio to TV. It's pretty much the main storyline that people talk about now. And that big thing is pretty much what I call the slow, sad suicide of the food and bev industry in Charleston.
Yeah. A lot of fast food places like Taco Bell and Subway, they're not even going to reopen their dining rooms anymore. Yeah, they said they're closed for the rest of the year because they don't have staff for them.
Right, that's the big thing that's going on now. It's not just fast food, but it's casual dining, fine dining, pretty much every major restaurant that you can think of right now, including the people who distribute, the people who supply, everything, they're all short-staffed. Every single restaurant is short-staffed to the point now it's starting to leak into online reviews. So like if you go onto like Yelp and like the Google reviews, people are starting to leave really shitty comments on these pages saying that, hey, this dining service sucked.
Yeah,
and so now it's starting to tank their
when they're
ratings.
obviously understaffed. The Hotel Bennett, a really big hotel in Charleston, they had a hiring party.
$500 hiring.
Yeah, sign-on bonus.
They have some restaurants
in the middle of the park.
Yeah, they have some restaurants that are offering $1,000 to you if you survive till July.
Yeah,
like $50 if you show up to the interview, because the Junction had 20 interviews in the last 10 days. Only one person showed up, and then when they said they would come in, first day, no show, no call.
I have a friend who's a server at the Bennett, and he says he makes like $600 a night.
Yeah,
every night. It's just ridiculous because he's like one of 3 servers.
Yeah,
so he's got like 10 tables in his section.
Right,
but people are like, so like he's just raking in the tips.
Yeah,
and he's like, I love the money, but I would rather not be dead sprinting across the dining room.
Yeah. So like the kind of way I wanted to break this down is first off like how it started and when it started, and then sort of like why it's reaching this eclipse now.
I blame Obama.
It all started then.
But like from when this kind of started a little bit before you guys started moving here, is we started getting these huge influx of people moving down to Charleston. It became like, what was the fucking travel magazine that kept rating us #1 tourist destination in the world for like 6 years straight?
It was travel.com.
Travel.com.
And then
Fuck you,
TripAdvisor.
Travel.com.
And then TripAdvisor jumped right on that.
Exactly.
Too.
They jump on this fucking train.
Expedia,
It's
all
the
them
greatest
like,
place to live.
Come
And
to
it
Charleston.
and so it goes from like greatest tourist destination in the world, and all these people start moving here. And now you've had this huge influx of population, and the cost of living has skyrocketed. 2 years ago, it was rated to basically just get by in Charleston, you had to be working 40 hours a week, $16 an hour. And for anyone who's worked in food and bev,
I don't think that's true, man.
Everyone-
Maybe if you're living on the peninsula.
no, dude.
No, dude.
What are you talking about right now?
$16 an hour to kind of just survive on your own.
I mean, I guess on your own.
Yes.
own, yeah,
To survive
I guess.
on your own, single person living by themselves in an apartment, it's $16 to basically have a livable condition. Once again, if you have roommates and stuff, that of course makes it a lot easier. But if you're by yourself or you're single living alone, it's a $16 an hour wage just to survive by yourself.
A one bedroom's like $1,000. Really,
Exactly.
$1,100.
Especially on the
after
peninsula.
everything.
On the peninsula, it's even more than that. Like
Oh,
if
it's
you
crazy
want to
on
not
there.
have a car and live and work downtown, like what we're talking about, like food and bev and stuff like that,
Yeah.
live and work right. That's where most people who work food and bev do live, right on the peninsula.
Right.
In order to do that, it's like $1,200 a month just for the base like rent.
Oh, that's
and
cheap.
Then that's like a cheap 1-bedroom studio apartment off the back of like above a restaurant that's going to be open till 2 a.m. every night.
Right. And then you've got like probably 4 or 5 people living there together now,
Yeah.
just trying to like make rent, save money, just so they can get the fuck out of that situation.
And the college in Charleston is so big that it's sprawled out across most of the peninsula now, multiple colleges in the Citadel and stuff. So people are charging per person in an apartment because it's college living. So it's like $500 a person in that apartment.
Right. I mean, LA was like that 10 years ago when you had so many people just crammed into it, and then the renters figured out, instead of charging per room, it's per person.
Yeah,
now.
but they figured LA out. They got that all figured out now.
got the fuck out.
Now LA is like just running smooth. Just so smooth in LA. No homeless, no jobless. Crime is just
non-existent
at this point.
Right. The taxes.
LAPD, I would say they're the most diverse and
calm,
respectful,
cool, collected, having no issues whatsoever.
Yeah.
Taxes. Whoever fucking does taxes in California.
LAPD, policing done right.
So y'all were talking about people, trying to live on the peninsula and work down there. I worked food and bev for a while down there for years, manager and serving bartender. I worked at the Vindu, which is a really fine dining hotel. Yep. We actually, when I was
do
there,
a bunch of drugs on the roof there.
yeah,
all the time.
I'm sure you did. A lot of people do. So when I was there, I was the head bartender and server there for about 2 years. When I was there, we wrote #1 hotel in the city. So that was a big deal,
Oh, yeah.
A lot of clout, Samantha Brown from the Food Network, all that type of shit, right? Well, the problem is most people who actually work there don't actually live downtown. So something that people don't even think about is when you don't work downtown and live downtown, or when you work downtown and don't live downtown, you have to drive a car, right?
Yeah.
Well, the idea is, there's plenty of parking. There's no parking. So you're always playing meter hopping or trying to hide from, those types of cops, so you don't get a ticket, right?
Or do a garage. Some companies,
Yeah, but a garage is like $15 to be there all day.
But like there are some restaurants that have gotten
But
contracts
it's not
with
near
the
enough though.
parking garages.
I guarantee you it's not near enough to
And
help.
There's not enough
They're not
parking
going to
in
let their
general.
workers.
It's
It's just a fact of business. They're not going to let their workers park in their parking garage,
Of course.
because they can charge visitors. Why let your worker park there for free when you can make $16 with a car being
Right.
parked in a
Right.
spot?
And
That's a
they're gonna fill
ridiculous
it.
charge.
Right. And with tourism being so huge, I mean, there's money to be made per square foot.
Yeah.
Not per square block or per square mile, per square foot now.
They're
Because
literally
Charleston's so compact.
Fleet Landing, in front of Fleet Landing, they're building in the
hotel.
water.
Yeah.
Like they're literally driving pylons in the water and
Yep.
building a hotel on top of it. It's going to be a floating hotel.
And there is
'cause
no
they
parking
ran
at
out of
Fleet
space.
Landing.
They're building in the water.
Right. And the parking lot that Fleet
ridiculous.
Landing had is now gone.
Yeah.
So like to get onto Fleet Landing's fucking restaurant, you have to literally walk across this little like 5-foot wide wooden bridge to get to the
And it's
restaurant.
like swamp on
Yeah.
both sides.
I asked the guys like, how has that affected your business? It's like, well, it kind of sucks right now.
Well, that dude who owns
but,
it's
like,
a scumbag.
really?
Yeah,
Okay.
his dad started.
Call him out like that.
His dad started Piggly Wiggly.
Okay.
And his dad promised all the employees of Piggly Wiggly, if you put in your time and do your
Yep.
dues, if you
This is
retire
actually
from this supermarket, he paid them a really good living wage,
Piggly Wiggly
and
was
he
great.
gave them health insurance for life.
Yep.
And he was like, my profits are right. We have just enough stores. We can even lose a couple stores, and we can keep this going forever. Piggly
Pensions,
Wiggly was
retirement,
wildly
you're doing
successful.
great. Yep.
And then he died, and his sons took over. Well, this son in particular took over, bullied it. I think he had a brother and like bullied him out of the business, basically. And he was like, no, none of you get health care. In fact, no employees working here get health care. Rip that out of it and like cut all their pay from like 15 to 20 an hour down to like minimum wage. Yeah. These people have been working for like 30 years expecting their retirement. And then he's like, I'm not even going to put money into your retirement anymore. And they all got together and sued him, and he was expected to lose a bunch of money. And he owns Fleet Landing. He actually put it in his wife's name. He put almost all of his shit in his wife's name because she's only worth like $5,000. He's worth like $73 million.
Right.
So if it's all of it's in her name, he can't get sued for nothing. He has nothing
Right.
no property.
So fun fact, that was my first job at a Piggly Wiggly. So a lot of those people that he's talking about, I know a bunch of them, and they were, a bunch of women and already in their 40s and 50s who hadn't done anything else with their lives other than have kids and, try to provide for them. And, a lot of them were struggling single mothers. Guess what they were told to do? Because when everything went to all hell, they were pretty much just told, have fun. So most of them just went to a Publix or another grocery store.
Right.
And they're trying to, it's been years and they're still trying to get a retirement because everything was lost. Their pension was lost. It was brutal.
Well, then Piggly Wiggly was eventually bought by like Bilo or whatever.
Yeah, he was supposed to shut it. He was trying to shut down all the Piggly Wigglies. He was trying to downsize them all into like, he only wanted to keep like 3 or something.
Right. So now we
insane.
have an employee who worked at my old job now. He had worked there for forever, and then he lost pretty much everything. And so now he had to go basically recreate his savings, recreate everything. So he had to go work at the company I worked for and go distribution. And he works night crew now. He's like the manager of night crew, and he's a great dude, awesome guy, but he should have been retired years ago. And that's so, there are a lot of great businesses. There are a lot of good people who own bars and restaurants. So definitely don't want to bash every single, guy who owns a restaurant or a bar down here. There are great people.
And I'm sure is a decent guy. It's just he is a brutally heartless businessman in that sense. I'm sure he's a great
It's all
guy.
business, nothing
But,
personal.
yeah, I'm sure he's trying to make a buck, or he's doing what he sees is right in his own business sense.
in his $47 million rise.
It was brutal. Like, it was brutal
Yeah.
the way he went about it. It was horrible.
I mean, there's great examples of people who have done really well downtown who have also been really awesome people. If you look at the Mooks Crosstown people, the guys who have had those bars, they're great people. The owners of Baba's on Cannon Street. It's a small operation, small restaurant. But that guy who owned it, he and his wife used to work food and bev before they owned this place, and they made $8 an hour. They fucking hated being poor. So when they created a successful business, you know how much they start at their employees at? $25 an hour.
That's pretty good.
That is, it's more than double for what a lot of people.
It's all right.
It's more than double what some guys are offering to work, And his argument was like, hey, we run a small operation, but I want good employees who don't have to work 2 jobs to survive, who have had really, can feel confident that they are going to be okay. And he has low retention, or he has got great retention. Anyone that quits, or they have to find,
everyone leaves.
People who want to work there, they work there and they bust their ass because they know if they fuck up, there'll be a line out the door trying to replace them, because anyone would love to work food and bev for $25 an hour. It's unheard of.
That's like working
pretty
security.
crazy.
That's like what I make working security is close to that.
So
it's like you would actually have to, like, managers make that. It's like, that's really good.
I mean, it's great. I mean, being able to offer that to employees. And once again, you get good employees if you hire well, because everyone would love a competent, hardworking employee. Well, how much are you willing to pay for that, right?
Right.
And so I think we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, but this employment issue started happening about 2 years ago, when restaurants really started to struggle having to find work. As the cost of living went up, you could see that wages weren't really going up, and the conditions weren't going up. Things weren't looking better.
Businesses didn't hire staff to keep up with the higher demand, because these restaurants went from being at like 75% capacity, or like 60% capacity at a rush, to 90% capacity all day long, all from 11 a.m. to 9 at night, just 80-90% capacity all day, because it's the tourism coming here. And then they don't expand their staff, so then it's like you have 4 servers doing 6 tables each when you should have 5 servers doing 5 tables each, or something,
Right.
And so they don't expand, and when they do try to expand, it's already too late, because these other bigger businesses scooped them all up, and then there's no workers, because no one wants to work food and bev. Everyone who works food and bev
wants to get the fuck
is
out.
trying to get out of food and bev.
Right. It's hard. And it's kind of appealing, because if you're young, especially, and you see cash in your hand every night, especially if you're a server and you get good tips, it's tempting to stay. But in the long run, there's a bleed out effect. You get worn out, you get cognitively worn out, physically worn out. You're not saving it up enough to be able to, get out of rent. Because the biggest thing, like, if you want to get out of poverty, get out of rent. Own a house, so that way it's
I think a
your money.
big mistake a lot of food and bev workers make is they go out immediately after making that money, which
that is true.
a side
I
effect
see that
of
a
the
lot.
industry.
Yeah.
Just
you get the discounts. Every other bar's like, oh, well, we'll give you a food and bev discount.
I show up in my work shorts with this sweatshirt, and I get discount. Like, this sweatshirt gets me a 50% discount at Rec Room.
Oh, okay.
You know how
cool.
great a $1 PBR is?
But no, we've all
Been there and done that, dude.
Yeah.
You used to do that at Mac's place.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's like you get food and bev discounts all over the place, and then you have all this cash in your hand, and plus you tip well, and then they take care of you even more, because the plight.
Right.
Like, thing you go out, you made $150 in a shift, you get home, you got $80 left. You
Exactly.
know? But you're shit faced and high as fuck, probably.
Right. I mean, and so it's
you had a great
restaurant
night on a Tuesday.
And for those of you who are listening aren't from Charleston, Charleston is pretty much the biggest tourism thing for us is food and bev. You basically throw a rock downtown, you're going to hit a restaurant's window.
Yeah, you go down an alleyway and there's 5 restaurants.
Exactly. It's a cutthroat, competitive market to be successful. Not only just in a restaurant, it's really hard to run a successful restaurant.
And it's expensive.
It's expensive.
A storefront on King Street, right across from where one of the bars I work at, right across, they just put up the price, and it was reduced from $17,000 a month to $12,000 a month.
Right.
And then that sign got taken down immediately, and sale and process in the window immediately.
And so you've got so you've got not just downtown, but West Ashley is getting more and more competitive. You've got Nexton in Somerville is blowing up.
I one of my other door guys works up or lives up in Nexton, just put a house up. It starts with an S somewhere up there, Sangaree or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's just commercial as far as you can see, with residential behind it, just endless houses for miles. It's ridiculous.
And those are all new for the most part.
All
It's
brand
crazy.
new.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy how much it's expanded. And that's 30 miles outside of the city. And I know a bunch of food and bev people who are trying to move out of downtown, and they move all the way up there because that's like the next availability is right there.
It's the next big thing.
Skip over North Charleston, obviously. And
That goes back to the parking.
Even Goose Creek, even Goose Creek is starting to grow more and more. Everything in Charleston, from this big influx of people moving, everything has outgrown its skin very, very rapidly. And Nexton and Somerville have blown up in the last couple years. They just built $100 million hospital.
Yeah.
Out there, and so it's gotten way too crazy, way too fast, and it's great for people who have establishments already, right? Because you probably already have a name for yourself. You're probably already doing okay.
And you probably have a lease where you're locked in for 7 more years.
But no matter
rent being half price.
Right. But no matter what, though, no matter what, if you own a restaurant, you're pretty much operating on a line in some ways. Like it's so like it is hard.
No, that's what it is. You have a dollar amount you have to make each night to stay afloat.
And it's difficult. But like at the same time, as things have changed, the business model has not changed. And for what I've seen, and like in this article that I read in the Post and Courier, they basically slightly changed their model for COVID. And they were like, okay, we're going to go right back to everything. And I'm like, you understand that COVID basically didn't just start this thing. It ripped the veil off of people's eyes of what was really going on. And it's just completely just opened it up to the Wild West to where like now you're starting to see these problems occur. So it's pay, of course, has been the biggest complaints. Wait,
hold on real quick. Well, you were talking about not changing, businesses not changing. The other big problem is you're going to see it soon. The newspapers are talking about these businesses not being able to keep it staffed.
Yeah.
And you're going to see these business owners turn around and blame the city, which I personally think it's the city's fault. There's no signs for parking. No one knows where to go. No one has any idea where anything is. They have all these tourism places that just give you a map.
Yeah.
But you have to pay like $500 a month to be included into that map.
Really?
You have to pay the company to put you on the map.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And so that's how they make money. And so the city hasn't hired any new police officers. I don't like working downtown some nights because I'm like, holy shit, man. There's like
a lot of people.
There's 100,000 people on the street and 4 cops.
Yeah, it's per capita. And what happens is
they haven't expanded the police force. They haven't expanded the city works. Trash all over the place. It's horrible, and the city hasn't kept up with the times, let alone businesses not keeping up with the times.
Right.
It's the city's fault that they can't enable these the businesses can't do anything.
You got a small snippet of that. Remember the riots over the summer?
I was right in the middle of it.
Remember King Street when everything went down to hell, right?
Yeah.
Literally, that was the first thing I remember seeing on the news the next day. Well, there wasn't enough cops. Again, not the same topic, but that's going to run over to the food and bev industry. There's not enough help for as big as the city is getting, as much tourism we get. And at this point, we're still not even back to 100% capacity. So that means our tourism's still not even back to where it should be.
April right now looks like July of 2019.
Yeah.
In the middle of tourism. And like the numbers that my old job is showing me right now is like, they're like, hey, we're going to have our busiest year was 2019. 2021 is going to be fucking crazy. And this is like talking about like the distribution of all like the produce, the veggies, and all that crazy shit. Like it's going to be fucking insane. So like,
and I mean I can attest to that. Last night I was a Friday night. Last night I was working the door, and we have these tickets that we sell, the receipts for each person comes in has to get a receipt, and we had 250 of them. And normally that will last us about half the night. And we were about an hour and a half in, and we were out of tickets already. We had to go and get new tickets, get them restamped. Yeah. We went through about 750 tickets last night, when normally we go through 500.
And like there's some nights that like...
And it's a bar that can't fit 100 people.
Right. And there are dead nights too. Like there are nights that things are like dead as shit.
Oh, yeah.
But the weekend, of course, then bleeds into this explosion of chaos. And every restaurant's feeling it. And because of the short staffing, it's really just getting completely out of hand. So, like, another big thing that people have been talking, like, I keep complaining, or I hear complaints from managers and stuff. They're saying, oh, people don't want to work because they're lazy. And I'm like, hold up a minute. It's like, yeah, man, people have been getting unemployment that's better than what we're able to pay. And they're just like, I would rather work, or they'd rather not work and get unemployment and make more money than to come in, work, make less money. And I'm like, hold up,
treated like shit too.
Like that's the biggest thing. Like I asked Evan why, like, his biggest complaints were, and his second one was being treated like shit. And I'm just like, it's not just the tourists that are assholes. Locals can be assholes too, and I fucking know that for sure. There's plenty of assholes. Even if you're a transplant or you're a fucking Charlestonian, if you want to call yourself that. If you're a Charlestonian, if you're a third generation Charleston person and you want to complain to a fucking server about being packed on a Saturday, go fuck yourself.
You see what the city's been. Plus, you get these out of towners who are like, yeah, my town, we aren't even open. We aren't even allowed to go out into the street. Where's that goddamn server? Get over here. Like, it's like, you're complaining because your city back home isn't even open. Yeah. We just opened back up without warning. Yeah. I want to remind you, it was Friday at like 3:30, like 3 or 4 months ago. Yeah. When or probably 6 months ago now, when the governor was like, all right, midnight tonight, everything can open up till 2 again. Bye. Yeah. And it was like, what? Like all these people went out and had to get second, third jobs or 8 to 5s. I went out and started installing granite again as a living because I wasn't getting hours, because how many hours can you be open when your bar is only open from 6 to 11? Right. So you're not making any of that money, and they gave no warning. So people are like, I'm so happy the city's back open. Yeah, you're happy, but you're not giving any leniency to the people who have to suffer through it time in, time out.
I mean, that's the thing is like, and you're not just getting treated shit sometimes by the patrons. If it's a high pressure situation, you will see a separation of leaders and douchebags. Oh yeah. And some managers will be like, where the fuck is that chicken panini? And there's this one fry cook in the back or one line cook in the back who's just him and 2 other people. One guy's stoned out of his fucking mind. One guy's on his smoke break. And he's just like, it's like, I don't know, I got 15 more fucking orders to go. What do I do?
The fry cook's 45 minutes late from calling his PO.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you also run into
I'm about to lose it, man. I'm about to go FedEx on this motherfucker. I'm just like, oh, sorry about that. That was a little bit too soon. Sorry.
You also run into the situation, though, even if you get someone who shows up for their shift or whatever, they're not going to necessarily be prepared to run a shift. Fine dining, any high pressure situation you're in, no matter F&B or whatever. But in F&B, if you can't handle your shit, they will get rid of you easily and fast, right? Oh, yeah. So that's why you have the same 10 people who've been doing the same shit for 30 plus years because they're making the good money, but they know what to do. If you're just someone brand new getting thrown into the situation, you're not going to know what to do. And guess what you're going to want to do? You're going to want to quit, or they'll get rid of you. And then they'll cry, oh, well, you guys, we can't find good enough people. No, you had someone show up and go through all your training and learn, but when it came time for them to get help, you weren't there to help because
you ate them alive.
You pretty much ate them alive, and then also you did what every adult has to go through. You just were thrown into the deep end without any training, because guess what? We don't have time for that. It's a Friday night. You got to figure it out. You can't figure it out if there's 1,000 modifications. You don't know the kitchen staff. You don't know the ins and outs of your POS system. There's so many small little minute things for servers and bartenders. If you don't know that stuff, you're never going to learn by not doing. And if you don't have time to get that learning process, guess what? You're fucked.
And you're like 19 years old, 22 years old, and you're just like, what the fuck have I done?
It's your first food and bev job. And you're
and it's like, they're like, and people will say like, oh,
you got an amateur Gordon Ramsay telling you your food is shit all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
Your expo guy who's got tattoos on his fucking 4 teardrop tattoos telling you your expo shit.
Yeah. The dishwasher is just like, it's like, do we have a dishwasher still anymore? It's like, no, I think he walked out like 2 hours ago. He said, fuck it. It's like $12 an hour. Fuck this. I'll go on unemployment and get fucking $300 more a week. And that's the thing that people have to worry, is that this whole COVID thing did allow people who were making shit money to still, even in April, to be making more on unemployment than they will be working, a really high intensity, hardworking job that pays less.
And there's a lot more. There's a lot more than the hours that people see. Like, it's not just like, oh, I had to make 4 sandwiches today. It's I had to go in 3 hours early and prep everything. Like if a nice restaurant's open from 4 to 11, 4 p.m. to 11 p.m. or 4 to 10, let's just say, people are there at 10 a.m. to noon, unloading fresh produce, stocking it, prepping. Chad, like, what time did your restaurant open? And what time did you have to be there? You were there like 2 hours before for prep.
Oh, absolutely. We only ever did breakfast on Sundays, and it's like, I used to show up there at 6 a.m. sometimes with a key to the place.
Yeah. It's ridiculous. It's like there's a lot. And then once you're done, at the end, it's the worst because you got to break down all that trash and... It's like there's a process you have to do. Every chair has to be cleaned and table wiped.
I hate that process. And that's why I worked morning.
Yeah, and God forbid you're a clopener. Yeah. By the way, for those of you who are scoring home, your shift sometimes is not just a 9 to 5. Sometimes you will close, and then 12 hours later, you're opening.
Not even 12 hours later, less than that.
Exactly.
If we
So
have a beer
fuck it.
truck that comes into the bar, I close at 3 and I have to be at the bar at 9 a.m.
Yeah.
Like, at given, I'm only there for 2 more hours and I go home and pass out for 4 more hours and then wake up for a 7 p.m. shift.
And people are wondering why the kitchen staff is basically you're on pot, Xanax, like Adderall, cocaine, or some sort of opioid. Like it's fucking rampant throughout the industry. It really is. And it's not just the line cooks, it's the fucking upper staff too. You're either on pot,
We're not
Adderall,
saying that
cocaine,
we're
or
not
opioids.
saying everyone working in the kitchen's on it. We're saying that it's very prevalent, working
insanely
back of the
prevalent.
house, front of the house, server, stuff like that.
It's a fucking widespread thing, and it's easily accessible. Plus, you got college kids who will fucking be willing to like buy or sell right next to
the
you.
college kids
Right
will
next
work.
to you.
I would rather, honestly, I say, one of the bars I work at is a karaoke bar. I would rather have 10 40 to 50-year-olds in there. I'm sorry, 10 20 to 30-year-olds in there rather than 10 40 to 50-year-olds. People who are like, Gen whatever before the millennials.
I also don't know what
Gen
he's saying.
X.
Gen Y.
I think it's
Like
Gen Y
people
because
born
Gen
in
X
the
is
70s and 80s. I hate it when they come into the
Baby
bars.
boomers.
Oh,
Those
yeah.
are
Post boomers. Post boomers.
Yeah.
I hate it when they
Gen
come to
X.
the bar. Yeah, Gen X, I guess.
Yeah.
They feel so fucking entitled. They're the worst Karens. I would rather have 22 to 30-year-olds in the bar. I'd rather have these punk college kids and like grad students and young adults in the bar because they don't cause any problems. You tell them to get out, they're like, all right, you know what? You're right. I've had too much to drink. I'm going to leave. You tell a 45-year-old woman to get out of the bar because she's too drunk, she's going to try and scratch your fucking eyeballs out.
Oh yeah.
The drunk old people are the worst. Drunk middle-aged people are the worst.
So we've identified the problem. Now, how can we blame this on the boomers?
Oh, it's the boomers. Boomers raised them.
It's always the boomers.
The boomers raised them, and they instilled that idea of just being a giant bag of shit onto, like, they're not even the greatest generation. They're the greatest generation's kids.
Kids, exactly. The greediest sons of bitches
You're
that
the
ever
greatest
existed.
generation, and then they're kids.
Yeah.
And they're like, good job. You ruined the ecosystem.
The
like,
economy.
rap scares you. Like, you don't have a black friend. Like... they're the people who look fondly on the good old days where like what? Like racism and sexual harassment at workplace like 24/7.
Yep.
Like your secretary was called Sweetie. Those are the people. Like that. That's like
It was like
that generation sucks.
It was the 1950s business infomercial. It's like when you compliment Cindy, say her, good job, and then a nice smack on the butt.
Yeah, it's like
Yes.
that, but like
Speaking of
those
smack on the butt, meet
They're
the
the
number one
worst.
guy that I love butt smacking every single Wednesday and Sunday. The head of Reforge Gaming Lounge, a guy who has spent decades, not even centuries, in the food and bev industry. My buddy Chris Dugan. What is going on, bud?
What's up, fellas?
Hey.
How's it going?
Hey, so you can sort of see us, right? You can sort of see and hear
Yeah,
us.
yeah, I
Okay.
got you. Yeah,
Boost the audio here.
absolutely. Here, I got. There you go. There's something special for you.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, hang on.
Nice.
Background
It's
effect.
backwards.
Yes. So, Chris, we've sort of been going on a bit of a tangent of like what we believe sort of started this employment issue in the food and bev industry and how it has slowly spiraled out of control with COVID not causing it, but necessarily just ripping the veil off of people's eyes and really just putting gas on the fire.
Sure. Oh, so we want to go full on, like where everyone thinks this came from like the pandemic kind of thing. I promise you it didn't.
And then people being lazy and not wanting to get off unemployment. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's always been the argument, right?
Right.
But I mean, looking at any real numbers, that's just wildly not the case. Of course, there's lazy people in the world, just like
Right.
there's extremely, industrious people in the world. You're always going to get extremes on those, but most people fall in the middle. But as far as food service goes, if you hear a puppy barking in the background, apologies. Apparently, my 10-week-old puppy just woke up, and now he's angry. It happens.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because someone made a sound and disturbed his slumber. How dare I?
Oh, no.
No, as far as the food and bev stuff goes in Charleston, I mean, look, it's like this. They're poor business models. They run razor-thin margins, and they have mediocre people running them. You compound that for 30 years, what do you think the fucking results are going to be?
Exactly.
Like, people are bad at this. Like, and the reality is most people accept mediocrity when they go to a restaurant for various reasons. I mean, whether it's the proliferation of places like McDonald's, well, it's just like, hey man, they're not terrible, but it ain't fucking great. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, this is just what it comes down to. It's serviceable at best.
Right.
When you start, like, your benchmark, your high water mark is serviceable, that's fucking rough, man. It don't go up from there.
Right.
Like
Exactly.
it goes down.
Now, if you bring that down, they have a massive infrastructure behind them, right? If you bring that shit down to like a local restaurant level, you have a bunch of people that generally may be passionate about what they're actually doing, but they don't have any of the skill sets to back it up that are necessary to actually make that a functioning business, other than, hey, I used to work in this restaurant and now I think I'm going to give this thing a go. And there's nothing fundamentally wrong with that. People should give it a go. However, if you don't modify the goddamn business plan along with that, like, I don't know, paying your employees a living wage, and then expecting them to like basically sacrifice themselves to make you money, it just doesn't work, man. Like 30 plus years of this shit, and now all of a sudden they're like, oh, it's because people are lazy. It is the opposite of that.
Right. Because you've
worked front of house.
100%.
You've worked front of house, back of house, Corey in the house. You've pretty much seen it all. Like,
Yeah,
you've seen people who are really good at what they do, and you've seen people who are really shitty at what they do. And in terms of, you know, the low level status to like the business owners, you've seen guys who are really well intentioned, who, you know, they do want to do good and they do want to do well by their employees. But no matter what you do, especially in Charleston, it's one of the most cutthroat places to have a restaurant. So competition is among like probably 500 other restaurants. You know,
Way oversaturated.
Oh, for sure.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
like
And there were just more coming online.
down every
Go ahead.
alleyway is a restaurant. You go down like
Yeah.
Queen Street, which isn't even a real fucking street. It's just a little brick alleyway, and you have
Yeah.
a restaurant in every little old house that's 200 years old, and they all have a story. Like George Washington peed here once.
Yep, exactly. That's literally one in on East Bay Street. They're like, this is our bathroom is actually where George Washington slept once, because of course it wasn't a bathroom then, but it's surely a bathroom now. You're pissing on history.
He was talking about people, the idea of people having, I've worked in this industry, I want to make it better.
Yeah.
That reminds me of kind of, or like you do that, and then I'm going to have these people work under me for not living wage. It kind of reminds me of the Disney model when I worked for them.
Yeah.
The idea is, oh man, when you work here, you're going to make all these dreams and all these things for kids and parents and everyone of years old. It doesn't matter. You're here to make memories, right? But underneath that very like big veil, it's a business. You got to make the money, or because guess what? If someone's not making the money, they'll get rid of it and find someone that will make the money.
Am I gonna get my dreams come true, boss? The fuck did you just say?
Not unless there's a Disney princess with it. They
didn't specify whose dreams, guys. That's the most important thing.
Right.
Somebody's dreams are going to come true. Probably not yours, but it's possible, right? No. I mean, it's not just the restaurant industry, but I mean, it's one of the ones that, you know, hugely impacted by COVID, clearly across the world, not just the United States, but, you know, in a city like Charleston, it's so evident because it's such a food and bev city now. I mean, tourism has always been a thing, but over the last 15, 20 years, it's really started to focus heavily on just food and bev, to your point, restaurant in every corner kind of thing, oversaturation of the market. So competition becomes a bit more fierce, which created the quote unquote shortage of talent that they were like, well, you know, a guy's creating an app so they can have like a gig economy for workers there. You know, at the office that we used to work out of at the Harbor Entrepreneur Center right before all this broke down, you know, the guy literally, he got so tired of dealing with it. He was like, I'm just going to start a tech company so I can solve this problem. But he worked in restaurants. That's how desperate he was to solve this problem. He's like, look, he believed that a Uber-esque kind of service, which was the equivalent of day laborers in the Home Depot / Lowe's parking lot, was like, that's how you bridge that. Instead of, I don't know, offer a couple more bucks an hour and see what changes there, because that was so far from reality of ever happening, of paying people. You know, you go to a place like, I don't know, Fig, or Jesus, that's the only one that comes to mind right now. And or Hank's, places like that. Hyman's, perfect example. Super busy, very low wages.
Tourist traffic.
Like
Yeah, exactly. But the reality, I mean, they do tons of business, and yet they're constantly turning people over.
Right.
And for me, I saw it on both sides, because while I did work in, a lot of local places and whatnot, most crosstown and downtown taverns, the people that own Tattooed Moose and Voodoo, they had another small place that I worked for a short time when it was open. So I've seen that side of it and a couple others too, but those are kind of the ones that come to mind. Bartending, it was mostly front of the house, but then back of the house, I worked for Outback Steakhouse when they were owned by OSI before Bloom and Brands came in. And I worked for the Olive Garden during Darden's like heyday when they owned Red Lobster, Olive Garden, Bahama Breeze, Season 52, all those things, right, before they fundamentally changed, right?
So
Right.
They don't, I mean, hell, Red Lobster isn't even part
of that
Before they
group
got rid
anymore.
of that unlimited pasta. It was before.
Did they really get rid of that now?
Yeah, they
No
got rid of
way.
that.
I don't
No.
believe you, man. That was their
Their pasta and
fucking butter.
breadsticks anymore.
My pasta.
You killed
Like-
I want fettuccine. Yeah, Chad used to have to make pasta.
I never made it.
You never made it?
Evan
But
used
they
to
had a
make
they had a
pasta.
full-time pasta maker at the Le Farfalles.
Yeah. Really, really
Yeah.
cool
It's super
spot.
easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not overly difficult, but it is time consuming for sure. And
Oh, for sure.
its shelf life is much shorter. You really
really
and that
have
goes
to
back to
know-
the restaurants. Do you want to sell?
Yeah.
Do you want to trade off quality for overhead?
Yeah.
Like how much do you have to pay that person $10-15 an hour to sit back there and make pasta?
Right.
You really only need one person.
And like
Yeah,
this
but
idea,
you need one person.
Yeah.
right? And this idea of the business model, like you and I have spent, I can't even count how many hours looking at business models and studying them and sort of creating our own. But like the idea of a adaptive business model is something that I think is completely vacant in the restaurant industry, because these guys who have basically like, hey, I've owned a restaurant before. It's basically a cookie cutter scenario. No matter what you do, this is what it is. I think what they're starting to see now is like with the combination of people flooding the market in terms of customers from not only tourism, but people moving here and transplants, you've got almost like the competition for customers is not really as prevalent now because there's so many people. But the competition now for workers has skyrocketed.
Yeah, but then with trying to find good workers, you have to find good managers. And
Right.
the shortness of good managers, just like you guys were talking about business models. You have people with easy business models. Going back to the pasta maker, how much can we raise our pasta $1 per dish to make up for that $15 an hour pasta maker to sacrifice to get the better quality and have to pay someone, so you keep that overhead.
Yep.
You got simple business models like that, or you got people who are like, do we pay this door guy lower hourly plus 10% of tips, pooled tips, or do we pay them a higher hourly with no tips? You have higher business models like that.
Right.
And people in Charleston think that's like the best ideas, just like two small ideas. Do we higher prices and lower people's pay, or do we hire an extra person? Charleston has no idea about like actually expanding and having good business models. All the managers I have are only managers because they're friends with the owner. They're not managers because they went
Yeah.
to business school
It's
or
like-
have accounting degrees.
It's this Charleston small town boys club, not just
Yeah,
boy club.
no,
but just
I
like
get what you're saying.
elbow
It's like
rubbing
an in club. You have to be in the in crowd in order to become a management or owner somewhere. It's not just like, oh, I actually went to school and I know business and this is a flawed business model.
Right.
I don't think I've ever heard a manager say that. I heard a manager say, yeah, I was getting shit-faced with the owner and he decided I was going to be the next manager.
Right.
That's half the time what I hear.
But now, I ask people, how many times have you seen people our age say, I would be perfectly fine with paying more for my meal if I knew that my server or the guy who's making our food was making a living wage?
Oh yeah, I wouldn't mind paying more money because then it's a direct reflection of their performance at work. When I'm getting paid more money at one, I work 2 jobs. I get paid more money at one place than the other.
'Cause you're
One place
invested.
I try a lot harder than the other because the difference is substantial enough to me that I'm like, no, I'm very scrutinous about my job here. Versus the other place is like, oh, I think I know you. You're good, man. I'm not saying I don't do my job. I do my job, but I'm saying
Right.
that direct performance based on salary.
Yeah.
I think Charleston, worse than a lot of other places, is so heavily reliant upon the tip economy. And I think the food and beverage workers of the city do an exceptional job of trying to take care of one another. The problem is it's the equivalent of throwing your car that you maintain really well and fucking neutral and stomping on the gas. You're burning through resources and getting nowhere fast. You're still going to have to replenish the fucking gas when you're done with it. You're equally as out of gas as you were before, but you've gone literally fucking nowhere because you're just passing dollars back and forth, and the economy isn't growing or shrinking. It's staying exactly the same because you're just trading dollars back and forth. It's literally the It's Always Sunny episode where they actually try and create their own version of Dave and Buster's, and they just keep printing fucking coupons because they don't know any better. And look, their heart's in the right place. Don't get me wrong. I was in it for a long time. I did the same thing. I would tip minimum 30%, but upwards of 70% because I knew what people were or weren't fucking making. It's just the reality of it, right? And you have a lot of cash on hand, and you're like, well, I can immediately change this right now. Well, while I could influence, I wasn't changing shit. I was delusional. I didn't change a fucking thing.
No,
right?
Like, because you're at the end of the day, like, you want to be helpful and you want to, and because you know like what those people are going through, but because of that action, the owners see that happening and they're like, oh, I don't have to increase your wages because I see people who actually care that are taking care of my employees for me. Like, it's a crazy system that it's a revolving door of shit. Like, it's like if shit got stuck in a revolving door and it just spins and spins and spins. So eventually, no matter what you walk in, you gotta wash your shoes. But like I said, it's not like, it's also the oversaturation of the market where like the only main business you can do in downtown, and I know we're leaving out like West Ashley and George and like Greenville and Next Inn and Somerville and all that, but downtown especially is where it's really, the shit is really brewing. It's the fact that like, who is anyone going to come in with a genuine idea of business to stimulate the economy other than a fucking restaurant downtown? Is there anywhere else besides a restaurant and a museum and a bar that you can go downtown? I can't think of hardly anything.
Edmund's Oast. So
it's a brewery.
No, but if you go to the workshop, that whole area, other than the brewery itself, the workshop is going away. That's all business right now. That is all business. That's going to be technology driven type stuff. Now the problem is that's the only place.
Yeah.
But you're looking for the outlier. I gave you one.
And there's law offices there too. That's it. That's law offices, fucking apartments, hotels, bars, and restaurants.
But it's one of those things. It's like, what's downtown Charleston known for? You close your eyes, pretend you've only seen magazines and TV spots. What do you think? I think of food and beverage and hotels. And guess what? Those two are interchangeable because they're both having the same problems. And you know why? Because you can't fit anything else down there. You can't put a zip line thing down there.
I would throw in transportation. I would almost group the people who work like the carriages and the bike carriages and the actual horse carriages. I'd almost group them into food and bev workers because they go through the same shit. They work for tips. They're out there given they don't have transport food over to a table, but you have to know everything about all these houses. And what about that house right there? I don't fucking know. Some dude named Greg lives there.
Yeah, like this much fat.
I don't know. And he's unhappy and he yells at his wife. I go by here 10 times a day. I should Google that house.
Like I can hear him.
Yeah, and the pool guy stays there like a really long time. Like it's really,
there's always a pool truck out there. Like Sundays.
They don't even have a pool. But like as much as I love those carriages, as cool as it is to see, and to see like the little half rubbers of where shit is supposed to be picked up, the fact that Charleston's grown so much, I think it's kind of time to retire those things.
No, absolutely not.
Like, I really think it's for congestion. It's just getting too much.
No, you only say that because you don't spend any time downtown except when you drive through there to go to work, and that's probably it.
No, like
Dave just wants to kill the tourism.
I appreciate
if you actually have you ever been on one of those?
Yeah, multiple times when my family comes.
Yeah, exactly. When you bring people here for tourism.
Exactly.
David hates money. What we're learning is David hates money.
You have to have stuff like that.
I understand.
That's the whole thing.
It's a business that doesn't take up a lot of space.
Museums and art galleries. You have museums, art galleries. You have like slave market. You have
whoa.
That's what
it's
what
it
is.
What it is, man.
Yeah,
it's legitimately what
you want to whitewash history?
Yeah. Right. Then you don't want tourism.
Yeah, that's what people come here for.
Get it out of here.
authentic history vibe. They look at the old houses. That's why you can't paint your house like some stupid fucking color on the peninsula.
Yep.
It's because you're going to ruin the aesthetic of everything else.
Yeah, you can't. You have to build with a certain material. You have to keep a certain aesthetic. You have to hear some Jewish women keep. Is this where they stored the blacks? I'm like, no, this is where they were at the market. They were
You get all
kept in
them
the
Long
courthouse.
Island people down here.
Exactly.
Holy shit, dude.
It's
I
so
think New
bad.
Jersey's empty right now. All I've been doing is checking New Jersey IDs at every bar.
Yeah, no, they live here now. They just haven't changed their
They
fucking
live
ID
here
yet.
now.
Do you work here? Yeah, I work
David,
here.
well, you just mentioned
is a good point about the limitations of downtown and why there's nothing there. I mean, I think you just brought up a good point. Say you did want to come in and do something there. How do you provide infrastructure down there when there's such stark limitations on changing anything? You can't.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, can you imagine? Can you imagine Reforged in a spot that looks like an 1800s house?
Yeah.
If
no
you have
way.
to build everything to blend in, how are you going to rip up the cobblestone street to put in a fiber cable down? Like, how are you going
We'll
to
get it
upgrade
done.
infrastructure? Just raw. How are you going to change out that plumbing pipe that you have to change out over your driveway if your driveway is 700-year-old white brick? Like,
And even when King Street has to change, like do anything to the roads, they run into gas light. Like they break gas all the time. Like they have
and
gas
water
lights all the
lines
time.
because it's
And-
so old.
Oh, I
And
forgot
there's-
about the
and
they're
there's
gas
not
lines.
marked.
And there's ancient railroad tracks on King Street that they have to cut through railroad to get through.
And they
It's
try to
insane.
hide everything with the architecture. Up 1 block away from AC's, everyone knows where AC's is on the heart of King Street. 1 block away from it, in 3 different directions,
Yep.
is a 5-story parking garage. 3 different directions. You just don't know that. There's one on John, one on Mary, and one on Ann. And it's like, but they just blend in so well. People are like, where's the parking garage? Literally right here. There's parking garage above Deco, but you don't see it because you have to go around 15 different squares and circles to find one parking spot.
Right. So, Chris, what would you think is because no one here is about short-term solutions. There is no short-term solution to put a Band-Aid on this because the Band-Aid, at this point, it's basically as if the wound is almost so severe that the Band-Aid would literally fall off as soon as you put it on there.
We should build a wall, and Myrtle Beach is going to pay for it.
But like,
That's not a bad idea, actually.
Yeah.
I'm with the wall guy.
Checkpoints on 17 and 26. Fucking
Shut all the bridges down.
Raise the drawbridges.
So what Columbia's actually really done is they've taken their food and bev and they've altered a lot of it. So like they've created sort of like niches. So like every bar or restaurant you walk into has a very unique niche. And like there's actually a pinball lounge that's opened up in Columbia recently where it's like 30 pinball machines in a bar. And his main thing is kind of like what Reforged has done. They're really emphasizing the social aspect of this game. It's pinball. It's a decades old thing that really ages really well because you can be 70 and enjoy it, and you can be 13 and enjoy it, and kind of really it just puts you in that space where it's just like you have to focus. You can't think about your fucking day. You have to focus on hitting the little blinkers and the little shit to be able to keep the ball in the air, and it allows you to focus. But it really allows
Intro to ping pong 101.
right, and it allows people to
pinball 101.
yeah, and it really allows people to really say hey, I'm going here. This isn't a restaurant that's like the exact same as the one down the street. This bar is the one that's the exact same down the street. And I think that Charleston also struggles with that as well, is that a lot of restaurants, yes, the staff is different. The food is very similar. The service is pretty similar. Like
The exact same.
it's
brother.
very cookie cutter where so much, okay, we do Southern food. Like, really? You and 30 other fucking spots in this block. Okay.
But that's what people come here for. So
Yeah,
what's
but
the point of
that-
changing?
I say that's better because that's what Columbia has. That's what Myrtle Beach has. That Charleston really doesn't, is a grouping of restaurants. People look at a restaurant space or like a storefront, and they're like, you know what would go good in between this biker bar, Thai restaurant, and dance club? A gay bar. That would be perfect to tie them all together. Like, how so? So your dad can go to one, your mom can go to the other, the kids can go to the other, and your weird uncle that always lisps all the time is going to somewhere.
Exactly.
Well, the
Plenty
problem.
fun for the whole family. But you go up to Myrtle Beach and you have like a cluster of all like themed restaurants in one area.
Plus, you live in the South, so your brother actually has to walk into one bar and then sneak into
Sneak
the
out
other
the
bar,
back.
into the gay bar. Yeah.
Well, the problem is, right, so people come here from other parts of the United States or wherever, and they hear about the Charleston hospitality, the idea of the Southern food.
Yeah.
That's what they want. So why would business owners go away from that when that's going to make money, whether it's good or bad? Because most of that food downtown, I've done it. It's bad.
Because
It's not good.
Southern culture is more than just Southern food.
I agree, but that's
It's
not what
taken on
people want.
It's taken on such a unique and diverse vibe that it's Thai food is slowly becoming more and more Southern. Like French food has become more and more Southern because it has ties to Southern food. Like Southern soul is like a combined of like
Yeah, but no one's traveling here from Boston going, let me find the clam chowder and hot dog place.
Yeah, true. But like there's the same. But
I'm open to that.
yes,
I didn't come here from New York, and it's like, well, I did. I was like, let's try the pizza.
I did come here from New York.
I'm not like come down here and I'm like, I'm only gonna eat pizza. No barbecue for me.
yeah. So I guess there is some like positive and negatives that come with it. So Chris, what would you feel it'd be the long-term strategy for restaurants that not only just ones that currently exist, but ones that would plan to open in the future, not just in downtown, but across the Tri-County area in this giant holy city?
Probably don't.
Sure.
Well, the first thing is the kind of the incumbents here, right? As like the two biggest issues that I see is the current politicians that are in place. They're indifferent. They don't care. They don't see a problem with what's going on.
They don't come downtown.
Right,
No.
right. Well, yeah.
For speeches, yes.
But I mean, even the ones that are downtown, I mean, Tecklenburg, like he's indifferent. Like he's whatever. He's there. He's there for the party, man.
Yeah, but
Like,
the last time he went downtown, he got cussed out by the restaurant owners for telling the cops to back out.
Oh, for sure. Because
Yeah.
I mean, for them, they're just like, hey, you sold me out. You didn't protect me. I put you in office. It's like, well, lo and behold, that a politician stabbed someone in the back.
And didn't make good on their word.
Oh,
Color me fucking surprised.
Welcome to America.
Man.
But the other, so the there's a issue above all this that they don't really have a solution for, and that's the fucking flooding. Until they have a realistic issue, and that's going to take some fundamental fucking changes to the geography of downtown and legitimate like fucking altering of the space itself of just drainage as a whole. Until that gets fundamentally resolved, we can talk all day about other strategies and shit. It doesn't fucking matter. That flooding undoes everything I'm going to fucking say here. It doesn't matter. And it's like, it's a big fucking deal. It's like 15% of the fucking time during top goddamn tourist season. Like if you look at it over the last 10 years and look at the studies that they've done, it's rough, man. And it's getting worse, not fucking better.
Now,
the more shit they add.
Who do you think can hold it? Now, here, I have a theory is that eventually it's going to come to an impasse where eventually the workers and the restaurant owners / managers have to come to some sort of agreement of, an agreement where like, hey,
Unionize. No, I'm just kidding.
I feel like where they can feel like, hey, I can come here and it's worth coming in. And I think that the tipping point comes to someone is going to break eventually. Either the owners are going to be like, okay, we'll start treating you like people. Or the restaurant or the employees are like, I literally have nowhere else to go. Which is basically the only people who are in food and bev right now who have nowhere else to go. Now, the theory that I have is as long as the unemployment and the opportunity to not have to work and make more than what you are currently making at a job, the people who have less to lose are definitely the employees, and the people who have everything to lose are the owners. Because if the worst case scenario for the employees, the unemployment dries up and they're like, fuck it, I guess I'll go back to work. The worst case scenario for the owners is I lose my restaurant. So like, what do you think?
So,
what do you think breaks first?
Yeah. Well, go ahead.
I was going to say that just as kind of like a little bit of a counterpoint to that, you have places that people work towards working at. You have places like halls where people who work at halls are actually really happy because they make a ridiculous amount of money.
This isn't every restaurant.
You have like 8, but I mean, you have a lot of these established restaurants.
Right.
That's the problem, is that you have a lot of these newer places that are popping up and going down and popping up and going down that are dragging good employees from good restaurants to there with just lucrative first week, you're going to make a killing. And then they want to go back to those old jobs, and they've already been replaced with new workers. But you have these good places like ACs and stuff like that, and the Bennett and Halls where people work there, and then they end up working there for like 10 years.
Yeah.
You go to Burns Alley, and they have the same bartender in there for the last like 15 years.
Yeah. Now, speaking of lucrative, the crazy thing that I saw, I was doing some research on Indeed. And all of these restaurants in food and bev in Charleston are hiring, and they're like, hey, you'll make $12 to $25 an hour. Make this to this for like servers. I'm like, by the way, that's not what you're making hourly. That is what their projected pay plus tips is going to be, because you don't have to pay servers and bartenders minimum wage.
So you tell me people are lying? Oh my God.
That's what I was gonna say.
They're
is
saying
that
that's projected pay at the end of the day, not what they're paying you, what their projected
at
pay
these
could
good
be.
places, they don't just pay their bartenders, the base $2.35. They get like $10 an hour base, and then they pool all the tips. So it's like, if you're still gonna walk home with money.
Yeah.
Hell, even Moe's Crosstown pays like I think $7 an hour for their bartenders, and then they get tips. At least back in the day, that's what they did, if I recall correctly. So I mean, small businesses can do this and make money. Like Moe's Crosstown makes fucking money. Don't get me wrong. It makes money, and
like
it's
I
a
said,
decent place overall.
Yeah, like I said, Baba's on Cannon pays 25 starting, where you make 50 grand a year as a fucking server or a line cook, and it's a fucking and they make money and they do okay.
But guess what though? Here's the thing. The ones that you're talking about, the small businesses that can do that is great, but a lot of the businesses, especially in Charleston, are part of hospitality groups. And so what they do is they pay you less money, but on the back end, they give you benefits like healthcare and stuff like that, which is great. Everyone needs healthcare. It's America. People live. Like, you're going to get sick. But the problem is the healthcare coverage is not good. So not only are you not making money, but you're getting money taken out for this healthcare that they swear is so good. But when you get sick, guess what? You can't really, it's not going to help you. So if you go to the doctor for your checkup, it's going to be covered because everyone needs a checkup, no matter who you have, it's going to be covered. But if you get a little bit more than just a little bit sick, it's not going to cover. So not only are you not making money like on your regular basis, you're getting screwed on the back end because they're taking money out for this healthcare that they say is going to be so good. But guess what? It doesn't cover anything.
Yeah. So like, I need my gallbladder removed. Okay, we'll get Jimmy here to cut you. We go clean the knife this time. Damn it, Jimmy, you want to bite down on something? Real quick.
That's a real conversation that people have to have in their heads when they're a server. Like, do I take more money and not get healthcare, or do I take less money and get healthcare that may or may not cover an emergency? If you go to ER, even if you have healthcare, it don't matter. No matter what industry you're in. But F&B is notorious because guess what? It's not that good.
It's also there's some like you work with knives, hot shit. You get burns. You get like everyone gets nicks and cuts and burns. But what happens if all of a sudden the fucking pot drops and you got scalding water going down your left fucking leg and you have burns?
What happens if your kidneys brace? It's not even just you, but you have a healthcare system through the company that you work for, and your kidneys braces. It's probably not going to be covered as much as you think.
Right. What if you've been working there for a couple years and you turn into an alcoholic because you work in food and bev and you need a new liver? Guess what?
Or
AJ's out of a new liver.
Wait, I can blame my alcoholism on my job?
That's work is comp.
It's definitely part of that equation, I think. No, that's a good point with the restaurant groups thing, and it was one of the. I'll just piggyback off of what you said. For me, you break up the restaurant groups. They're basically VCs.
Now, explain what a restaurant group is.
So, I mean, it's essentially a collective of people with capital that can finance any kind of venture. They just focus on restaurants, and that cookie cutter approach that you talked about, they tend to apply to all their restaurants as far as not the concept, but the way it's run. They expect them all to function the exact same way, the cost to be similar, what they pay for payroll, those kind of things. They expect them all to be about the same. The problem is, rarely is that ever the case. Even geographically, a restaurant in North Charleston and a restaurant downtown, fundamentally your payroll is going to be different, or it should be, right? Because the cost of living downtown is higher than the cost of living in North Charleston. It's not starkly different, but it's about a 15% different. And that's just what it comes down to. So, I mean, ultimately, David, to answer your question from before, what's the long-term play here? Removing the environmental problems like flooding and that causing a host of issues for places that handle food, which is a big fucking problem. I can't stress that enough. I mean, it's a similar thing to when we look at Reforge. It was like, hey, how I'm going to do this differently is that everyone that comes to work for us, if they want it, they're going to have some level of opportunity of ownership of this company. They're going to have a fucking vested interest in this, because I cannot expect people to give a shit about what we're doing if they have no vested interest in it, if they're just drawing a paycheck. It just doesn't work like that. That is fucking human psychology 101. Right. There's got to be a reason why.
And the fact that you and I were, and Michael, and then eventually Brian, were so on board with like, hey, we want to make sure that we can pay you a really good wage is something that it's something that's like, because we have felt that and we know that it's out there and that it's needed for people, because if we want good employees, we want people to be excited and not have to worry about, going to their next job at the end of their shift. Right.
Right.
We want to make sure that like, hey, we want to make sure that you can put everything that you have into this, and it not only helps you in the short run for your paycheck, but it helps you with opportunity in the long run, whether it be management opportunity, ownership opportunity. It allows you to be able to have a stake that you can grow on, that it can grow for you. And if you put,
like you were saying, you have to have a reason to care.
Right. It's purpose. It's a thing that I think a lot of these short-term gig-like jobs suffer from. Is it denies people purpose of what they're doing.
It's hard to be mad at the boss when you could be the boss.
Exactly. It gives you an opportunity to see like, hey, there's a way for me to, make a point where I don't have to worry about money. And I think that's a lot of thing that the working class, and of course food and bev, of course, everyone working in food and bev is always worried about money. But when you don't have to worry about that, it literally makes you feel physically lighter, and it allows you, now that you don't have to focus on money, you can focus on what gives you purpose and what allows you to, find fulfillment, and allows you to make things better, not only for the operation that you work in, but the operation that others work in. And basically it just compounds upon itself.
Sure. Well, I mean, one of the biggest instabilities in people's lives is the financial solvency. Right. And it's never more evident than in food and beverage, especially in Charleston. I mean, you see it. People are clamoring for shifts, these kind of things and whatnot. It's crazy that we've all witnessed this. And yet you're people over here that are saying, well, these people are lazy. They don't want to work. I was like, they worked super fucking hard so much for this. And now they have this thing that has given them some level of financial solvency, even for a temporary amount of time. And so the value prop that you're giving to them is, hey, destabilize your finances again and come make me money. That's what you're asking these people to do. And then when they say, fuck you, man, I'm going to ride this thing out and remain stable and save this money, and then I'll come back to any restaurant ever, because it doesn't matter for the most part when I have to. Why would they give that up? For what?
Right.
Who are they helping?
I mean, we're looking at a generation who was willing to hold the line to where they lost money so they can make billionaires lose hundreds of billions of dollars. Do you think that they're going to be the same generation where it's like, hey, by the way, I think that you can pay me better? You think they'll hold out? They will hold out and figure shit out before these restaurant owners do. It has to eventually reach some sort of climax, or it's going to fucking just boil over. And there's not going to be anything to catch it.
The restaurant groups aren't going to offer ownership because they don't see it as as something tangible. And make no mistake, there's different kinds of ownership for this, right? I mean, you look at the GameStop kind of thing that you're alluding to there, and the other quote unquote meme stocks, right? Your AMC's, Blackberries, Nokia, et cetera, et cetera. But the reality of it is, I mean, Jesus fucking Christ, man. Institutional ownership very much exists. You can give people rev share. You can do a lot of different things that isn't, oh, we have to IPO first, and then we're going to give you, $30,000 worth. I was like, who the fuck wants to IPO Hall's Steakhouse? It just, look, it's a great place. I enjoy it very much. I wouldn't invest in it. And they're probably the best goddamn restaurant downtown. And certainly in Somerville, or Nexton, whatever you call, that area out there, for sure. As far as consistency and quality of product, I can't think of a better one. That's kind of, Mr. Hall's whole thing.
Shout out to Hall's Chop House, R.I.P. Hall.
Yeah.
He passed away last year.
Best place in Charleston to eat. Don't care what magazines say, whatever. It always wins. It's the best, though.
It is. I mean, it's an experience. It really is. It's fucking incredible.
And look, there's other people out there. I mean, if we're giving shout out to Nico Romo from Nico's and Bistronomy that he just launched too.
On Spring Street.
I've worked for him personally back in the day, and under Patrick Properties Hospitality Group, with American Theater and all those places, Lawrence Grove. And I mean, the guy's as solid as they come. It's what it is. He genuinely cares about sustainability, about making sure that his people, can fucking actually, if they're not happy, he helps them move on, and he pays them as much as he possibly can, a living wage. And they struggled through and didn't shut their doors during the pandemic to figure it out. And it personally affected him when he had to cut some staff, and he did everything he could to get them back as quickly as possible, all the people that he could come back. And there's not a lot of places out there that did that. He was dealing with that and fucking June, July of 2020, when shit was really hitting the fan for a lot of these places, of getting these folks back as quickly as possible. And I mean, so just to give a comparison's sake, it's not all doom and gloom, right? Although there's a lot of not great. There are some legitimate like beacons of hope there that shouldn't be undermined or marginalized just because sadly they're not the norm.
Right.
They're
There are a lot of
exception.
great restaurant owners. There are a lot of great managers that really work hard and they
There are.
understand where their employees are coming from because they've been there too. Like,
Right.
and so like, once again, it's unfortunate that it sometimes looks like those are the minority guys. And I think those people definitely don't get enough credit, but hopefully that it can make some sort of turn on, because it has to, or it's basically going to collapse. I said earlier
100%.
I said earlier this is almost like it's like with the slow sad suicide of the food and bev industry here, and hopefully it can be sort of avoided.
But you have like you have apps like Gig Pro. Have you ever heard of the Gig Pro app? It's an app that they always tout in the Food and Bev Collective on the Facebook. There's Chucktown Food and Bev Collective with like all the food and bev workers.
Oh yeah,
Charleston
shout out to that
always
page.
join.
That was fun.
But like I just logged back into it just out of curiosity. They have dishwashing positions at Wild Dune Resorts, which I looked up how much they pay their dishwashers there. $11 an hour.
Yeah.
On this app, $25 an hour they'll pay you to work one shift from 7 p.m. to 1 a.m. literally tonight.
Ridiculous.
Now imagine
$11
if-
an hour
There's
is
other
standard
places
worker.
on here, like John King Grill and Bar. One thing that reminded me of this app is a friend of mine worked there.
Yeah.
And he said he was getting paid $10.50 an hour, and he quit there, logged into the app, and signed up for a shift
What
that
position?
night. His same exact shift he was supposed to work for a line cook.
Oh, line cook.
And he was getting paid $10.50.
Uh-huh.
And he quit his job. That shift popped up. He opened up the app, signed up for it, showed up for $19 an hour that night.
But what restaurant was that?
John King Bar. Grill
Okay.
and Bar. And it's
That's
on
funny.
here right here for
It's right there.
$19
Fucking-
$19 an hour. And
Show it to
they
the camera.
pay-
Show it to the
they-
camera. Show it to the camera.
They'll pay you. They'll
Exactly.
literally pay you $19 an hour through the app. So it's not even through them. They pay the app. There's Home Team Barbecue on here for $25 an hour.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy. Handcrafted.
But that's
have
the
to have
point that we made
experience?
earlier.
Is it not? Is like, imagine, so so we have our extremes, right? We have our absolute minimum, which is what the majority will do, right? In the quote unquote argument of our margins are too low. And yet they'll pay $25 an hour for a dishwasher here. And the margins are the same. The margins didn't change. So the reality of it is that position is critical, right? Clean dishes
a
have to
line
happen.
cook, a
And they are willing
dishwasher,
to pay, $19 to $25 an hour, which, hang on, now we're back into the living wage arena, right? So what if you paid these people $18 an hour starting, and then every fucking 6 months they stick around, you give them another 50 cents that caps out at something, and you provide them with benefits, which this is the other misconception that people make, is that, health insurance costs this much. No, it fucking doesn't. It's not that expensive when you buy it for your employees. There are packages out there, I know, because I'm purchasing it day fucking one for our people at Reforge, because just like David said, they get sick, they get hurt. We don't want them to, but they fucking will, and they need to be able to go to the goddamn doctor so they can get back to making shit happen. And that's the way it works. That's where we lose money, is when David can't make shit happen for me, or Brian, or fucking Tom, or whoever. Right.
It's
Fucking
easier to
town.
fix
And
the
the
sick
cost of
person.
the
It's
block
cheaper to
that I
fix the
make-
sick person than train a new one.
100% It's not even close. It's like
Yeah.
20 times more expensive to replace them.
It took years to fix Dave. We almost have him where we want him now.
Right, that's what I'm
conditioned me
saying.
so
We
fucking well.
Really
It's
molded
almost-
him into something.
Heartache.
Like, let's start to cash in on this thing, huh? It's a huge investment. But no, I mean, it's the sad reality of it, is like that app perfectly illustrates the extremes here. So instead of the extremes, let's meet in the middle with the restaurant group people and all these owners and whatever, and then the actual workers, and say, hey, this is what it actually costs these people to live, plus give them another $1 or $2 an hour so they can go have a fucking drink and not be worried the entire time that this fucking beer that they're buying is, what service or necessity am I giving up? Like, I don't know, fucking food,
Right.
in order to have this beer afterwards, just so I can try and maintain some semblance of sanity and mental stability to go get my ass kicked for 14 hours again tomorrow because, someone called out.
Right.
And those
That's
people,
exactly on point.
And like I said before, you wonder why, the idea of like I said, was it pot, Adderall, cocaine, and opioids are so fucking like prevalent in the food and bev world. Like it's insane.
TED Talk Charleston, there was literally a dude from a restaurant group up there that I'm sure is shown by them now that his whole mission is to stop the heroin abuse epidemic in Charleston. He literally got up at a TED Talk and talked about all the restaurant groups and their indifference towards people using heroin and dying from it in Charleston in the last 10 years.
Yeah,
This was at a TED Talk.
Yeah, it's real bad at the College of Charleston too. There was a huge article about it a couple years ago. How it's becoming insanely prevalent in downtown, especially among young kids. You're talking like 19-year-olds that are getting hooked on the shit. It's insane.
Like, there's
brutal,
way
man.
more
But I
easier
mean,
ways to
it-
stay skinny.
It's just below the surface, and people try and gloss over it. And it's like, oh, look at the architecture and look at all this kind of stuff. And it's like, hey, man, there is a real cost, a human cost for all that shit. And, you know, there's not a dollar amount that I'm going to put on this that's going to solve this. It's very much it's people are either going to be indifferent and they're going to give a shit. And
Right.
that's really the differentiator between good men and not good men is indifference. And it's again, not just food service, but it's most evident there. It's most obvious there. When you tell someone, hey, I'm sick, and they try and guilt you into coming into your shift anyways. I've never seen something so fucking egregious in my life that you tell someone that you handle food and you say, hey, I think I have the flu. And they're like, I can't get someone to cover your shift. Like, who the fuck cares? Did you not hear what I just said?
Like, remember when I told you that my boss called me a bullshit artist and a liar because I called off on a Monday once?
To be fair, you are.
Yeah.
You are definitely a bullshit artist and a liar.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do remember hearing that, and that is infuriating to no end.
Yeah.
Like, but I mean, look, when you go back to the business model here, I was like, what kind of business doesn't have some sort of fucking redundancy in place that you are solely reliant upon a single individual to be available basically forever?
Yeah.
Like in total perpetuity, they can never be sick or take a vacation or, I don't know, oversleep, whatever, right? They're always going to be here, and they build an entire business off of that person's back. Like, and their hard work versus, you know, the collective's hard work, right? And I think it's too individualized here, whether they know it or not. It's too focused, ironically enough, on the output of the individual, but the input is not there from the organization to them, right?
Right.
You know, and in more lay terms, too long getting read, they want to take a whole bunch from you and they don't want to give you shit any more than they absolutely have to, which is, you know, David, you've gone through this with me, and every single person that successfully applied to Reforge and come on with the team, I have a very clear question, and I'm sure with everybody, is, and whether we hire, and I do this with other places too, if I'm part of the hiring process, like, hey man, all right, what do you want from me and what are you going to give me? Like, what are you going to take from me and what are you going to give me? And the deer in the headlights look that almost every person has given me when I ask it flat out like that leads me to one conclusion. No one has ever asked them that in their adult lives in an employment situation. And it's fucking, I've seen 50, 60-year-old adults look like that. And I've seen 18-year-old, 19-year-old fucking people look like that. It is the same look of, what do you mean? They've never been asked to balance the equation, given the opportunity of all things being equal here. Hey man, cool. Let's do this thing. How are we going to do this? What are you going to give me? What do you have of value for me? So I give you what's of value to you, which is either time or money or both, generally speaking, right? It's you. That's the employment fucking deal. When you work for someone, they pay you in two forms, time and money. And then there's a sub form, which is benefits. Benefits is not money or time. Although sometimes it can equate to both, it is separate. And the amount of people that try to lump it into both of those things, or at least one of those things, all-time high. It's fucking ridiculous. But that's the conversation. And if you go into that with any employer and any restaurant group person that looks at this out there, please feel free to take that shit and understand that, hey, at the end of that, if that shit is unbalanced, it is a countdown to disaster. Right?
Write it down.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. Like, I didn't invent this fucking thing. This is just my take on it of, hey, what are you going to give me and what are you going to take from me? Because there has to be a give and take. Otherwise, resentment is born and it festers and it becomes something that sometimes causes people to act violently or fucking other, right? Violent is the worst case scenario, but malicious is more common. They steal, they break shit, whatever, right? All of those things are bad for business and they're easily avoidable if you just have the conversation. And not once, here's a crazy thing. Those fucking reviews, whatever your cadence is, when you sit down, you look at the equation and make sure it's still balanced. I know, it's fucking wild. I'm like patent fucking pending over here, guys, on that one of continuing to make sure the equation is balanced. You heard it here first.
Guys,
Oh yeah. Chris, man,
holy shit.
I want to thank you. I want to thank you, man, for spending time here talking to us, having some fun, giving your thoughts. We're about to close it out in a little bit, but man, I want to thank you so much. Once again, guys, you're hearing from Chris Dugan, guy who's been part of the food and bev industry in Charleston for a long time, passionate about it, wants to see success. So we'll see what it can happen, man.
All right, guys.
All right, bud.
Y'all
I'll talk
take
to you
care.
tomorrow.
It was fun. Cheers. Later.
He's a guy with a lot to say.
Got some passion.
Oh yeah, he is very passionate about like when he gets on a roll with something he's passionate about, he loves delving into it. I think he had a lot of things to say. He had a lot of really interesting points to make, especially with the idea of understanding that owners have to understand that they have to provide something to offer people that other than just money. There has to be something more than just that because they'll just burn
The
you out.
employer-employee relationship. Yeah, I like his take on it.
Yeah.
At the end there.
I know it's a right to work state in South Carolina, but still, dude, you have to be able to like.
Yeah,
give me
I
something
enjoy
more.
going to both my jobs. That's the reason why I still work there.
Yeah.
Like,
I think
I get punched in the face and I still go back.
I think one last thing that we really need to just touch on. I mean, he mentioned it a little bit. Is like during hurricane season and stuff like that, it is not easy to do anything downtown.
Right.
I know we were talking about the F&B industry as a whole, but it kind of has been consolidated downtown being the big culprit, right? So hurricane season downtown is horrible for everyone involved. The owners, the people coming into the town,
Right.
the hotels, all the stuff. But trying to work a shift downtown in the middle of a hurricane, you never know what you're going to be working that day because you don't know if you'll be able to get there.
Right.
If you get down there, if you can't find parking, your car's going to get messed up. And by the way,
the third floor of the parking
Right,
garage.
and the thing, people are in like New York are listening to this and like, you fucking worked during a hurricane. I'm like, yeah, hurricane party, bitch.
Dude,
What are
we
you
got
thinking of?
lucky last year for not having a hurricane in the middle of
jinx it.
I
COVID.
can't believe it.
Can you imagine?
Insane.
Can you imagine all these people who barely? Knock on wood.
Yeah.
All these people who were barely making rent. Actually, I know a bunch of people who didn't make rent, and thank God they couldn't get evicted.
Right.
Like they're caught up now, but it's like shit, man.
hey, and people, guess what? It's salt water, so it messes up your car and your transmission way worse than just regular water.
Buildings, infrastructure, everything. It's fucking crazy.
Not to mention, Charleston's built on a swamp. That's just getting more shit and more people built on it.
Yep.
We are sinking.
It's a shit
That's
hill
why it's
built
getting
on
worse.
shit.
The water level's getting higher and the ground's getting lower.
Yes.
And we just keep choosing to do this.
And it's just
But don't
seeping
worry,
and
don't worry.
seeping.
We're getting rid of all those wetlands around. Those pesky bad boys.
Get them out of here.
Oh my
Did you guys hear that Drum Island, one of the islands underneath the legs of the Big Ravenel Bridge?
Yeah.
That island that's man-made underneath it, where they
Right.
dumped all the dredge, it broke open. Now there's a river
Yeah.
breaking right through the middle, right under one of the
Crazy.
struts for the fucking 2-mile long bridge.
Don't you want to come here to Charleston now?
Yeah.
Visit Charleston.
No, get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck alone. Leave us the fuck alone.
We have so
It's
many
full.
ports.
Oh,
a
but
lot of
David,
ports.
where will the bachelorette parties go then at that point?
Oh yeah,
Man,
true.
Dave.
Speaking of bachelorette parties,
Oh, they're
by the
planning
way,
on filming The Bachelorette here. soon.
remember when I said that I had my buddies, I had to be my buddy's best man. I was asking you guys advice for what I should do.
Yeah.
That's that's.
Yeah. So
Did you listen to that episode? By the
No,
way?
I didn't hear
I
that.
don't remember.
So
Yeah.
context for everyone who doesn't know. So me and Dave have known each other since we were like 5, 6. He's been my best friend. He will never admit that I'm his best friend. Fine, whatever. He did follow me to college, and he moved over here to Charleston, this part of Charleston after I did. Whatever. I'm not gonna get all mad. And he wants to move into the neighborhood that I live in.
That's because he is. There you go.
But he'll never admit that. But David is still my best friend, and he'll be my best man coming up. I'm getting married in December.
Oh, yeah.
To the great girl, whatever. But I've only asked David to do one thing. I was like, I need you to do the bachelor party, right?
Yes.
And then you have to do a quick speech. It doesn't even have to be a big speech, but I'm
You've
like,
told me what you want, and I know
Right.
what I'm going to do.
and then, but I talked to David a couple weeks ago. I was like, so when's this bachelor party? I was like, oh, I don't know. I forgot all about it.
No, that's not true at all. That's not true at all. Usually the bachelor party.
I feel like it's true.
That's a Dave
Usually,
thing.
no. Usually the bachelor party is pretty close to the wedding.
Dave forgets those things.
No.
It's a Dave thing.
Yeah, but here's
gonna
what-
be the night
now-
before.
Now here's one thing, John.
And he's gonna
you
forget
said-
again, just
you
so
said
you know.
you were slightly nervous before coming on the podcast, and why is
Right.
that?
Because I've
What
never.
was the last episode you listened to?
So the last episode I listened to, y'all spent about 40 minutes talking about French fries. Now,
Oh, it was a terrible
Oh, it was
episode.
fucking horrible. I hate that. I was
See,
so mad.
that was
dude.
Dave's fault.
I got
No.
in a fight with my brother in that episode.
Here's the thing.
We got in a fight right in the middle of it.
Oh, we
had
cut
to
that,
cut
though.
it.
Yeah, we cut
We
it.
had to cut. We cut.
but you
about-
went to an ad and talked about the fight,
We cut
though.
30 minutes of us
For
screaming
Instacart.
at each other.
But here's the thing. So I listened to that episode, and y'all just came
You
to the
should have
conclusion.
just played the video in the background while the ads
While the
playing
ad
over
ran,
the.
yeah.
Y'all came into the conclusion that Chick-fil-A had the best fries or whatever, because it just that was the good day for them.
It was that or Five Guys.
It was- I've never
or
been
a
so
Cookout.
disappointed at people I've never met in my life. I was like, Chick-fil-A?
Right. Who is it?
Best fries, hands
He
down.
says Arby's, isn't it?
Arby's.
Yeah.
Because
Did
they
we
put
even
that.
have Arby's fries?
Yeah, we had Arby's
We had
fries.
I don't-
fries.
There's a
Well,
curly.
you're the
They're
curly
too, they're
fries.
too curly.
Yeah, and they're too crispy.
Now, what were you nervous about?
I guess if you have COVID,
casserole?
Arby fries
What?
are
You were
really
nervous
good.
about the casserole, weren't
So
you?
I listened to that episode, and y'all were like, "We have too many fries. We gotta just put it into a bag." So I assumed I was gonna walk into this place
There were way too many fries.
and have like a bag full of just like crappy old
Like
casserole fries.
Still
What
going
year?
on.
Because we talked about keeping it in the
Keeping
fridge
the bag
and
in the
making
fridge.
guests eat it.
I was really like, because I listened to this.
that would have been great.
I listened to this. I was like,
Should have bought more fries.
I listened to that before he asked me yesterday to come onto the show. So I was like, oh man, that's so funny. That would never happen. And he's like, hey, you're going to come onto the show. I'm like, okay, as I'm drinking a beer. And then like this morning I woke up, I was like, oh, I probably should listen to some of the old stuff again. And literally I was like, oh shit.
Grab me a Stella, AJ, if you got it in there. Other side.
Can you grab me that High Life, the big one? It's
Yeah,
the only
dude.
fat boy.
looking at the highlights.
It's the only fat boy.
the big one.
2 Stellas for that.
Sure, do you want
That's my Stella's, you motherfucker!
That's a fair trade, right?
No, it's not a fair trade.
then it's me drinking 2 Stellas or him drinking.
He's like, I will drink 2 Stellas out of spite.
Sure, you made the math. You made the business deal work.
But yeah, I
Dave,
was
You're losing either way.
I know.
You got a opener built into the table.
But I was genuinely worried I was about to come in here and have some old ass fries. But also I was like, well, at least if I do it, I know it's been at David's house. And I was like, what's the worst thing that could happen? If they're all gone because Mandy ate them or a cat hair's in it, like a cat fur ball type thing. Luckily, we have to deal with
Gonna
it.
have a cat fry ball.
Chad's thinking the worst thing you could do at Dave's house is be on a podcast.
I didn't know I was gonna have.
And my nightmare came true.
I didn't know I was gonna have champagne tonight. Would have ruined my church shorts.
So people underestimate that beer so much. It's so sad. It's one of Loki the best beers.
Speaking of church, what have you figured out what you're going to do with your Catholic Church lawsuit money?
What? Oh, from BE?
Yeah, the BE lawsuit from the kitty fiddling.
So
Wait, you
I
guys got money?
no.
Did you guys
No.
both get molested?
No, we got.
You both at the same time?
we went to the
You
school.
didn't say anything.
No,
Wait,
we
hold
went
on.
to school. We went to school when that window in the locker room.
Yeah,
was
we
open.
know. We heard.
yeah,
Yeah.
and so
Weird
And that
flex,
guy was
but
there?
alright.
Yeah.
yeah, so
looking
with
at you
my
every day?
money,
Jeff Wee.
I plan on with my money. I plan on just going to Disney World to just do the full circle of like kid, like weird looking.
I'm gonna visit Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson's
No,
grave. and
but you know that guy went to Disney World once or twice in his life and was just wasn't Godsmack like
showed up in costume.
right. And so for me,
I'm a prince.
yeah.
I'm a princess.
But that guy was creepy. I remember I actually met him once or twice, and that dude is a creeper.
He was weird. Like I just thought he was like autistic or had like Asperger's or something.
He also did this thing where his eyes would look away from each other, so it'd be like
Cross,
this.
yeah.
And so you could tell which way he was looking, so it really confused me.
It was fucking scary.
Dave's like he used
He
to
had
go to the
separate
bathroom
control of
all
his
the
eyes.
time. Dave's like he used to always be in the bathroom when I used to go.
No, but for real though, all jokes aside, like I remember several times showering in there and being like, "Oh, it's just me and a couple other guys, like no big deal." Now I'm like, Jesus
When it was
Christ, what the
Jeffrey.
fuck?
Yeah.
It's like goddamn football. I blame football for everything in my life. Every time I've been hurt in life, it's because of football. High school, real life. I mean, I'm 27. Something happens to me, I'm blaming football for it. Damn football at BE. I'm not blaming it all.
Remember when play football? Did you play football?
No, I didn't want to. I thought
He was too busy playing.
Even played football.
He was too busy playing grab ass, playing
I was a
wrestling.
wrestler, yeah.
They were on separate seasons.
Yeah, exactly.
They were in separate
But, like,
seasons.
I know, but I didn't want to play football. Like every time I saw something in football, like all the douchebags who I hated at that school played football. So I was like, I don't want to play football.
You
I
could have
don't-
been one
Hey
of
guys,
them.
by the way, I'm his best friend. He just called me a douchebag.
Not
Welcome to
really.
our relationship.
Wow.
I'm
You were one
talking
of those
people-
douchebags
No,
he's
I'm
talking
talking like the other people. Like they all like
Oh,
the
yeah.
like the Drews, the Haydens, the Christians.
Drews.
Like
we had 2 Drews, 1 Hayden.
yeah.
To be fair, though, our school was
Chandlers.
full of exceptionally big douchebags because they were all kind of wealthy.
Yeah, like
and
lawyers,
like,
kids and shit.
and like they're like those people that wear the Sperry's and stuff, and they're like, "Do you know who my dad is?" Like those are those people.
And they would
We
still
went to
drive
school
a
with
truck
country
and they,
people.
And they
Yeah,
tried, no,
we didn't even.
We went to school with real country people that came in smelling like cow shit because they actually worked for 2 hours
one.
already.
We had one that
the
that
fuck is
came in
cow
like that.
shit? Is it actual cow shit? Or is that like
Yeah, it
a
was farms.
metaphor?
No, it's farms. They lived on farms. So
we lived
we
in a
were from the
very
country.
yeah, we had
we
one,
lived in a very dairy rich area.
yeah, we had one guy.
Burn Dairy, the biggest company around.
Yeah, we had one guy that could actually pull it off. It was John William. It was the guy who actually lived on a farm, went hunting every morning, came back, had a shotgun in the back of his truck, and no one cared. But then you had like every other douchebag who had their big pickup truck, and it's like, I'm gonna go mud. And I'm like, where? You don't like 30 minutes outside of Ravenel. Where the fuck are you?
This is the point where
Are you
David
gonna climb-
remembers
are you
I
gonna
had a
climb-
pickup truck.
I bet you didn't have a
He's
jack
like all
pickup
these
truck.
douchebags with pickup trucks.
Now,
hey,
what-
hold on, I had a
I'm
pickup
sorry.
truck.
Are you gonna go
Still
climb?
do.
Are you
I
gonna get
still
out
do
of
have
there?
a pickup truck.
Are you gonna go climb Mount Pleasant with that in that fucking truck?
Well, I'm Hispanic.
I actually used to. There used to be a. I don't know what the. We might have to cut this if there's some kind of legal stipulation. I used
what's the statute of limitation on
Yeah.
X crime? What is it?
It's
X-crime?
it would be a vandalism of public property.
Why would you do that?
In excess of $1,000.
The question is, why would you not?
Ski hills. We used to have ski hills. So during the summer, we used to have hill climbs. I used to take my truck and try to climb the hill, and it was as high as you can get up the ski hill. Most of the times, it's really muddy, so you'd end up like sliding down sideways.
Well, the problem with David's thing is I'm Hispanic, so the only climb I did was to climb the fence to get to this country.
3 years.
Second of all, I'm also fat, so therefore there was no climbing. And that's like when we were in college, I climbed the fence one time and whipped up my pants so bad, David literally made fun of me for months.
Wow.
Dave sounds like a fucking fantastic.
What a jerk.
David's the worst friend ever,
terrible.
but he's also my only best friend.
We always say he's
Yeah.
the worst
No, no, no.
person.
Dave,
What
we
was-
never make fun of you.
What was
Behind your back.
You got so involved.
what was the thing that you always said in college that we're best friends
Okay.
because you could talk nonstop shit, but what?
So this is what happened. So David, I've known David forever, and in college this was never more true. It's not nearly the same now because we're both grown ups. But back then, I would tell people because I was in a fraternity. Shock of all shocks. Yeah, whatever. David. I knew he was going to make a joke. He would come around every once in a while. I'll be like, "Oh, who is this?" I'm like, "Oh, this is David. This is my best friend. We're good friends." And like, "Oh, how do you know?" I'm like, because I can sit there and talk as much shit for him about him, but he won't do anything because we both silently know he could beat the shit out of me. And guess what? He could beat the shit out of me. And now he's gotten bigger with muscles. The thing that I don't like about David right now,
Creatine.
one thing I don't like about David right now is I've had tattoos for years. He got one tattoo and he looks like he's all big and bad. He still scares the shit out of me. That tattoo made me scared of him now.
I scared the shit out of you 30 pounds lighter, though.
No, but you didn't have a tattoo. The tattoo really scares me now. Like and it's a good tattoo. I get the point of the tattoo,
yeah.
but like I look at you, I'm like, I don't want to fuck with
You should
David
just
right
get
now.
some douchey barbed wire tattoo. You should get a full sleeve, man.
No.
I was
A
gonna
full
get
sleeve.
I was gonna get a full sleeve. I was gonna get really douchey Americano crap, like
No.
the American flag being.
Oh, that's
I want to
Dude,
get.
I have a 1776 in my heart.
Oh.
How much more trashy can you get? Like,
I'm getting this logo on my other arm.
Yeah.
And then
the
that'll be
gay
about
flag,
it.
and
Yeah.
everyone else can't see it, so let's just say it's the gay flag.
Right.
Yeah, that'd be
He's getting the gay
it's
flag.
actually a trans flag. It's so very dim colored.
Right. How?
Kinda sad.
So, David,
What-
a question:
what made
how
you-
Irish are you right now?
Right now.
Like
right now.
Like you're gonna add more Irish from just that tattoo is gonna make you even look more Irish. How like what are you trying to
He's drinking
go?
a lady beer. He's not that Irish.
So,
I'm
this
more
is a
Irish
Belgian.
than this fuck
This
is.
is a Belgian beer.
Yeah, lady beer.
Whatever. It's a beer that is making me feel like a
Fun fact: all of Belgium
I
is
didn't
ladies.
stutter. You heard me.
I
Did
don't
you
know.
know that every man in Europe pees sitting down? That is a fact.
Speaking of Europe,
Did you know that?
Yeah.
That is
No.
a fact. Every man in Europe.
Never heard of that, but guess what? David probably pisses too. I don't know.
Speaking of Europe,
Sit down,
I'm going to
lady.
make a clip out of this. Speaking of Europe, I want to give a big shout out to the one fan that we have in France. that has listened to every episode.
Chad says he might not even be French.
Oh God.
I said just because he's in France doesn't mean he's French.
Right. So like I want the one
We've actually talked about him extensively.
Right. So we're actually fans of you. And the one person who listens in France, I want to say thank you, and I want you to contact the show.
Contact us through Venmo,
whether it is
at AJ1776.
whether it is via like the Facebook page or on a YouTube comment. Our videos are on YouTube, so you can comment us or email us at mookscast@gmail.com. Email us so I can send you some merch. I want to send you some cool fucking merch. We have shirts, we got hoodies, we got t-shirts, stickers, all this cool shit. I want to send you some stuff.
Yeah,
because I think you're awesome.
So
I want to thank you.
I've seen those downtown on mirrors and shit in very inconvenient places.
Yeah, I want to put those there.
And I have not put those there.
Yeah,
and
I've
it's
seen 'em
very irritating to me.
I've seen him at Jeans Hofbräu. I've seen him at Tattooed Moose.
So fun fact,
Burns Alley.
Fun
They're
fact,
not
you guys don't
bumper
know this.
stickers,
My
though.
fiance made those stickers for y'all. Yeah.
No. She made them. No, she didn't.
I thought you did.
No, she made the mug that I'm having more of made. I
okay.
bought those stickers. Some sticker website.
Don't listen to me. I don't
But it
know
was
what I'm
cool.
talking about. I just showed up.
Yes.
I may or may not be drunk. I'm not drunk, but I wish I was drunk right now.
Right? Well, you can just keep chugging.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I gotta go get food.
Yeah.
Speaking back to F&B, I gotta go get some dinner. I don't know what I
I
want.
gotta go to work in like half an hour.
Okay, guys.
We'll all go get French fries from 3 different places and meet up.
Casserole. That was fucking weird. I pick up Evan and he goes, "Oh, we gotta get French fries." I'm sitting here like,
I gotta get French fries too.
I was gonna go to Arby's
did I.
anyways. He's like, "All right, you go to Arby's, I'll go to Wendy's, get French fries." I'm like, I'm not filled in on anything we're doing. He's like, "Stop at Sonic and get fries." I'm like, "Is this like?"
Sonic has French fries.
Did you take too many
Sadly,
Adderalls
yes.
this morning?
I was like, "How many Adderall? Let me see your tooth diary." Today
Roll
Wiggly
it back
was so
to the-
loose.
Rolling it back to the fucking episode 1.
No.
Oh, guys, thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the Mooks podcast where we broke down the slow, sad suicide of Charleston's food and bev industry. There is hope, but it is dim. So
Yeah, and when
we're
Dave
figuring
edits
out
out all of our weird tangents, it will make sense.
absolutely somewhere. Check us out on Facebook. All of our content is going through. All the news are on Facebook. You can watch the podcast and watch Chris's interview on YouTube. But we are available on all the big time streaming platforms, whether it's Spotify, iTunes, all that fun shit. It's there. If you want to check out our merch store, we've got a merch store as well on the website. It's got your cool tank tops, t-shirts, hoodies, all the fun stuff. John, my buddy, my friend, I want to thank you so much for spending the time to
He said
come
friend,
in
not
and
best
say
friend.
hi.
Right, he
It's
always
like-
has. If I'm still in this at the end of it, I'm gonna be shocked. I love it.
Cut him out completely.
Welcome.
I just carved out 2 hours of my life for nothing. It was great.
You got beer, you got friends.
The entire
You made
recording, you're just
friends.
gonna have a black bar over your eyes. You're just gonna fucking be redacted.
I love it.
You're all gonna be mad at me.
God damn it, Chad.